Hello, readers. Welcome to another episode of the Bougie Book Pod, where we get together and we summarize, overanalyze, deep dish about our favorite and most recent reads. Before we get started today, I kind of want to apologize. I feel like our schedule has been all over the place.
Yeah.
We're still learning and growing and figuring it out. So it is what it is.
And the holidays messed it up.
The holidays totally messed it up,
Yeah.
but I think we're going to get back on track. And once the next episode comes out, I think it'll be more regular and timely. So, but that's that. I'm Tara.
I'm Kira. And if you made it to this one,
thank you.
You know we're going to do A Court of Mist and Fury. This hopefully won't be as long because now we don't have to do like the world building like we had to do in ACOTAR and the characters. Like you're picking up, these people. As always, we're going to dive into everything. So if you haven't read this, probably don't continue watching or listening. Probably stop here.
Yeah. We're going to ruin it for you if you haven't read it.
Yes. And once again, apologies in advance on the name pronouncing. Don't come at us for
Especially when we get to Summer Court.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Summer Court.
Anyone's name at that point. So
Tarquin's the only one I've got.
That's okay. I was afraid Tarquin wasn't right.
I don't know.
Okay.
In my heart and soul.
Yeah.
Okay. So A Court of Mist and Fury picks up after they have left under the mountain. They're going back. Amarantha is no longer. And Feyre goes back to the Spring Court with Tamlin. And they're engaged to be married. And she's kind of got this looming fear that Rhysand is going to call her to the Night Court because that was part of their agreement they made under the mountain. She has to spend a week with him every month.
And on top of that, I mean, one of the first things that she says was, I was the butcher of innocence and the savior of a land. And she is really reeling over the things that she did under the mountain. And it's changed her, and she is not okay.
She needs a therapist.
Very much so.
Very much so. And Tamlin is the farthest from that.
Yeah.
But I think, in this time, she's got this fear Rhysand's going to come and summon her. And she is like, yeah, things aren't great, but like, it's me. She's doing the I'm healing. Tamlin doesn't know how to handle it. Tamlin's healing. Everyone's healing. And I feel like she takes the
I think she does. And I think she says it because a part of her is thinking something else.
Yes.
Because there is a part where she says, he never woke when the nightmares dragged me from sleep. Never woke when I vomited. Yeah. If he knew or heard, he said nothing about it.
She's starting to get these okay, yes, I have issues. I need to figure it out. But also I'm supposed to marry you and you're just snoring through this.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. She suspects that he too is dealing with some things, but he will never, ever acknowledge it.
So they're getting married still, though. All this is happening. They're still getting married. And this is where the worst character I've ever met comes into play.
I'm Googling really quick how to pronounce her name.
I like to say Ianthe.
That's how I would pronounce it.
I feel that in my soul. Ianthe is the priestess, and she is a busybody. She's annoying. She thinks her, word is everything. And Feyre, honestly, is more than happy to actually have Ianthe around because Tamlin's always off doing stuff.
She's a distraction. She's a buffer.
Yes. And Feyre also wants nothing to do with all the what color flowers, what color gown for the wedding, all this stuff. And she's like, oh, perfect, Ianthe, you take this. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do this. So you feel like they're starting to form this friendship. And Ianthe is annoying, but maybe she's just super excited because whatever. So things kind of build. And it's wedding day. Is there anything you want to touch on before I get to wedding day? Because you have the notes.
I do. So I read it on my iPad and I was just constantly highlighting and making
quoter
notes.
Over here.
Yeah, I love quotes, you guys. Excuse me. You were talking about not picking the colors. Yeah. She hated the dress.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just thinking she loves this guy. She did all of these crazy things to get to this point. she should be enjoying this moment, and instead it feels like the closer and closer she gets to it, there's just nothing but dread.
Yes.
And I just kind of wrote down that she's not really being her true self. And also she was talking about how like she wasn't Tamlin's mate. They were waiting for like something to pop in because she remembers hearing about this mate thing. She doesn't really understand it. Also, she's starting to kind of freak out about what her role will be as his wife. And it sounds like it's just going to be her in pretty dresses, like saying hello to people. And it just doesn't make her happy.
Yeah.
And she asks him like, oh, if you're a high lord, is there such thing as a high lady?
Yeah.
And he's like, no.
So if you're a high lord, what am I going to be? And it's like, oh, the high lord's wife?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And she's just like, oh, there's no such thing as a high, and it bothers her a little bit. And so they get to the wedding, and you can just tell she's not happy.
And it's also interesting to point out at this point, like, she is Faye, but they aren't doing really anything. Like, obviously she can like hear things really well and stuff like that. They haven't really done much with it. So we get to the wedding day, and she's going down this aisle.
Her dress that she hates.
And dress that she hates, flowers everywhere. And she is just in her head. And I think she's literally just like, no, no, no. Like, help me even.
Yeah.
And she's in her head, and she gets almost there. And all of a sudden, a little bit of chaos erupts. And what do you hear? Hello, Feyre, darling.
Can we just stop right there? I love that through all these books, he calls her Feyre, darling.
Yeah.
Always calls her Feyre, darling. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And who's there but our knight in shining armor?
Rhys. Yeah.
Rhys-Anne.
Thank God.
So whisk her away. He's like, I get my week. You know, I haven't been here. It's been like 3 months, and I've left you alone. So this is time for my week. And so takes her to the night court. And Tamlin, of course, is like,
oh, he's pissed.
It's my wedding day. And does he get his way? Absolutely not. Rhys-Anne takes her off to the night court. And the interesting thing is Feyre is kind of like, I don't even know if it's like an act or like deep down she like knows this is how she should react, but she's like pissed too. And Rhys-Anne's like, I saved you.
Yeah.
Like, you were begging for someone to help you.
Yeah. I think because at this point she still thinks he's kind of a bad guy.
Yeah.
Even though I think she knows better. And she feels guilty.
Yeah.
That it got to that moment and she was like, no, no, no. And I think she also sensed that Tamlin and Ianthe, or however you say her name, they also sensed that she was about to say, I can't. And so I think it was just guilt.
She's not like smiling down the aisle. She's like, seeing their faces like, uh-oh. So then she spends her first week up at night court, and really not a whole lot happens in the first week she's there. She gets her night court clothes, which are a little more provocative and different.
Yeah, and then I noted that when she got there, she says it's the most beautiful places she'd ever seen, that her room was a dream. And it was just kind of reminding me of when she first saw Rhys and was like, the most beautiful man I had ever seen. It was just like all these things that felt like they were just popping into place. It's like, oh, this is what I love.
And the interesting thing is like, he lets her have the space. He doesn't push her to do anything. He gives her options, but he's like, do what you need to do. You know, my house is your house. Go as you wish. That type of thing. He gives her that freedom. So anyway, she goes, and I'm just going to kind of like summarize through this, because she goes back to Spring Court and they're like, oh my God, what happened to you? Are you okay? They're vicious. And she's kind of like, yeah, that sucks because I was away. But also like, we don't have to talk about this wedding. Yeah. Which is interesting because they just kind of like
gloss over it, and he doesn't bring it up.
Nope. Under the rug.
Like, so when are we going to do this?
Yeah.
Or nothing.
Like not rescheduled. So then she goes to the night court. She does her couple visits there. And slowly but surely while she's at the night court, you know, he's like, I can help you read. We can work on, you know, working on your hidden skills that you got from the other high lords, your magic, things like that. And she starts to kind of warm up to him, but she's still going back to the Spring Court and giving them a summary of what happened. But she is keeping a few things. She's not letting them know every single thing that they've done. She lets them see a bit. And then she's in the Spring Court, and what does Tamlin do? but put her in a box. Not literally.
Well, I mean, even leading up to that, she's not eating.
Yeah, oh yeah.
She's losing an incredible amount of weight.
Of course, Rhysand is like beside himself how she looks.
Yeah,
like,
she's throwing up every night. And yeah, he's just like, has no one addressed this with you?
Yeah.
You look horrible. You look sick.
And then,
all she wants is to just...
She wants to be involved. She
Yeah,
wants to do something in the Spring Court. She wants to have purpose in the Spring Court. Like, give me something to do. And Tamlin's like, no, stay home. Like, you're fragile.
It's too dangerous. We can't let them know. Let them know what? And she's like, I don't even know what we're supposed to be saving you from. I thought we saved everything.
And it comes down to a point where she wants to go with him. And he takes the extra precaution of not only keeping her in the estate, palace, whatever you want to call it, but warding it so she physically cannot get out. And this is when Feyre erupts. With the power that she doesn't know she has, she just absolutely erupts. Rhysand feels that, senses that, and because he's also really smart, Rhysand is, he sends his cousin, the Morrigan, aka Moore, to go in and take her. Because he can't go into the court and take Feyre. They have to like winnow their way to Summer Court, cross the border, or Fall Court, or whatever. I forgot what touches them. They have to winnow there.
Autumn, yeah.
Autumn. They winnow to the Autumn Court. Then they cross the border, and Moore has to be the one to go in and take Feyre out. And like literally carries her like a child out.
Yeah.
And then they go back to the Night Court. And the interesting thing is this time, Rhysand says, be there as long as you need. Like, clearly should hit the fan.
Yeah.
Clearly. So be here as long as you need. And this is when we really see Feyre open up to, okay, maybe I will start doing these reading lessons with you.
She starts to think maybe the Spring Court isn't my home.
Yeah.
In fact, when she erupts, her ring just comes off.
Oh, yeah, of course it does. Thank God.
Of course it does.
She does these lessons with him. She wants to be more involved. He lets her, they look at maps. They talk about things. And this is when he starts to kind of let her in like, hey, there's something happening in this place that's across from us in the ocean called Highburn. And something's a brewing over there. And I'm getting worried about us. I'm getting worried about the human lands. And so I think this also triggers Feyre into like, okay, maybe I'll take you up on my offer now. Like, let's explore my powers. Let's go through this. It gives her that level of concern. And so Rhysand being Rhysand makes her rewrite sentences that are like, Rhysand is the most handsome High Lord ever. Rhysand is the most. And then so slowly but surely, Feyre is no longer illiterate.
Yeah.
But he gives her that freedom and that choice. And she just flourishes.
Yeah.
She starts to get healthy again. She's eating again. The nightmares start to dwindle, like here and there throughout the series. She still has some.
Yeah,
they go through a lot of trauma.
Yeah, and she's introduced to Rhys's family, for lack of a better term. She likes them. Yeah,
so to break down the family, we've got Moore, who we mentioned is the actual cousin. We've got Amren, who Lord knows what she is in this Fae body, but she scares me. And I picture her as the most petite little thing ever.
It's like a tiny little, but she's something otherworldly. Like she comes from before the beginning of
very
time.
Cryptic as to like what she is. Then you've got Tweedledee and Tweedledum, aka Cassian and Asriel, who are Illyrians, which essentially is the people in the Night Court who have wings. They have this gift, which Rhysand is also part Illyrian. And they met when they were super, super young. So they're like brothers. And Cassian is like the brute and the like leader, the best warrior ever. And Azriel is like this mysterious, they call him the shadow singer.
Yeah.
He's like the spy.
Yeah.
He's very, I don't know if maybe that's why he's so intriguing.
Yeah, he's shadows.
Yeah.
You know, that's his power, I guess. He can just turn into a shadow and he's just in and out and he doesn't talk much.
No, very quiet.
But I feel like when he does, it's important.
Yeah. And together they make this like inner circle. They are, and Rhysand opens up to Feyre, and she gets to meet all these people and interact with them. And he doesn't really keep anything from her.
No,
if she asks,
is a choice. Yeah,
he will allow her to see it, and everything is a choice. He does have to go off every now and then to do things, but everything is a choice.
Yeah, it's not a lot of secrets.
No. So from there, I got so into the inner circle.
I know.
From there, she does. This is when she writes the letter, right?
I think so.
So now she's not illiterate.
I mean, she's still a little shaky.
Yeah, it's okay.
She can figure it out now.
She writes a letter back to Tamlin, essentially saying, like, this was my choice. I am happy where I am. Do not come find me.
Yeah.
Which, of course, like, Tamlin, she left illiterate, so, like, what? And so slowly but surely, she gets to see and understand Rhysand a little bit more. And this is when we really get to understand that he chose to be, for lack of better terms, Amarantha's whore. Mm-hmm. Because he knew that if he did that, he was able to keep this inner circle safe. They were never under the mountain. He kept his whole city of Valeris safe. No one knows it exists. And he was able to just keep a good chunk of his people safe.
And he's trusting Feyre by showing her Valeris and letting her in on the secret, you know? And so she gets to see this side of him that she judged him, right? But because he played the part so well. And so she sees this side of a high lord who really sacrifices himself over and over again for his people and the place that he loves.
And the interesting thing with that is they do have a place in the Night Court that is like what the people picture, which is the Court of Nightmares. So Valeris is this hidden, no one gets to understand what it is. He keeps that secret. You know, it's his little prized joy that he can keep away from the world. So with that,
I'm trying to remember now because I'm all caught up in the details of these people. But at some point, they get together, and Rhys was like, "Listen, you have dinner with us. Kind of decide for yourself. Is this something you want to be a part of? And then once you tell us that, then we'll go forward and letting you know what it is that we're trying to do and look into." And she does. She says, "You know what? Yeah, I mean, right there at dinner in front of everybody, like I'm in."
And this is actually, I do remember this now. This is where they decide, okay, you have a lot of talents that we can channel because we have Hybern is trying to pull back the cauldron. He's got pieces missing. We need to find these pieces first. And we think because you were created or made, as they say, Feyre, you can find these.
Yeah.
And so her first test, and I remember this, is she goes to the prison.
Yes.
And the prison holds just the most awful of awful, and she meets the bone carver, who takes a different shape with everyone. And interestingly enough, hers is a little boy, has some similarities to her.
Around 8, dark-haired and blue-eyed. I highlighted that because I was like, why is she seeing a little boy?
Yes.
Who has dark hair and blue eyes and reminds me of someone in this story.
Interesting.
So
we meet the bone carver, and she is able to talk to him and get some information out about what they need to stop this, which is the book. We need the book to stop the cauldron. Mm-hmm. And they are like, okay, cool, great. So then they go back, because it's her and Cassian at this point who go to the prison, I believe. The first time.
Yes.
She goes multiple times, but I'm pretty sure the first time is her and Cassian. And then after that, I feel like I'm going to miss something because I want to jump to one part because there's another test that Rhysand has her do.
Yes.
Which is the Weaver's Cottage. Am I okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We go to the Weaver's Cottage, who is blind. This horrible creature who hoards things, like steals things, hoards things in this cottage. And Feyre has to get an item. And because they have to go get this book, Rhysand's like, okay, you're going to go in here and you're going to be able to figure out what item this is. And you're going to be able to get in and out. Because we got to go get this book. So this is your test to do it.
She has no idea what she's looking for. But he's like, it'll tell you.
It'll tell you. So he's perched up in a tree, like kicking back, like, oh, this is great. She'll whatever. And she goes through the most horrible experience. Yeah. She gets into the Weaver's cottage. This terrible woman is there. Mm-hmm. And Feyre is this object that attracts her is a ring. And Feyre gets the ring and everything's looking good. And then the Weaver realizes she's there. Feyre ends up crawling up the chimney full of like human fat, gets on the cottage roof covered in human hair, is fighting off the Weaver, and Rhysand's just out there like picking at his fingernails in a tree, I swear. Just waiting. And so she retrieves the ring and comes back and of course is pissed, but she did it. So they've decided, you are ready to go get this book. And where's the book? But the book is in the summer court.
Now, I don't remember how they knew that the book was in summer court.
I feel like it was Amren. I don't know. Maybe the bone carver.
Either the bone carver told them or Amren did.
But I think it was also because in the treaty after the war, they got to keep the Perinthian, the Fae, got to keep one part of the book, and the human queens got to keep the other. And I think maybe it was knowledge Amren or someone, they just knew the summer court was like the holder of their half.
Yeah. And so
then they head to the summer court, Amren, Rhysand, and Feyre, and Feyre's on this terrible mission.
Yeah, and again, it's somewhere there. You'll know when you feel it, and they're just kind of living on a hope and a prayer that something sings to her at some point. And so they get to summer court, and the High Lord there is Tarquin,
we'll call him.
And then his like second is Varian, I believe.
That's how I say it.
And his sister is there. He's got all these people.
Cressida?
I would think it was doing like Cressida. But I could be totally wrong. Point is, the main guy is Tarquin. And you get the sense that he's young, even though they're all immortal. You get the sense that he's much younger than the other High Lords. So
he like took over more recently too.
And so there's a sense of like almost like modernity from him. Like he wants to change things. He wants to be a little more radical. And Feyre can sense that in him, and she actually really likes him.
Yeah.
And she has this feeling that Rhys really likes him too, but he has to play the part of this, evil night court dude. And so they have to play their part, and she feels really guilty because she knows that at some point she has to deceive him and steal from him. And so she talks to him a bit, and again, her guilt is getting more and more because she really likes him and what he stands for.
Oh, yeah.
And that he kind of just wants more equality among the high fae and the lesser fae. So she's thinking that he's got these great ideals, and, maybe we should just be honest with him and tell him, hey, like, there's this book, we got to get it. But she is also worried that maybe if we tell him, then we don't get it. So yada, yada. So she plays this game with him, and he takes her around places where they keep their jewels and stuff. And she's thinking it might be there. Of course, there's nothing.
And all the while, he's like throwing them parties.
Yeah, I mean, he's
having lavish dinners for them. And I think this is interesting because this is when Feyre, as she's trying to swoon him over, like you said, and get to know him, Feyre starts to get a little jealous.
Yes, I knew you were going to say it. Yeah.
Because Rhysand is giving attention to other, and she's like,
she doesn't like it. She doesn't like seeing another woman sit on his lap, or him, and she's imagining, like, what are they doing later?
Yeah.
And it really bothers her. And then it bothers her that it bothers her.
Yeah.
So she starts ignoring him and doesn't want to talk to him, and he's picking up on that. So we have a little bit of that going on. But then at some point, because of this, she decides to go on a walk on her own. And I think the tide was low or something, and she notices this building. And she's wondering, what in the heck is this little thing doing?
Because you can't see it from like high tide.
No,
like,
you
only
can't.
Low tide.
Only low tide, and it's kind of far out there, and it's all like dingy looking, like it hasn't been touched in centuries. And she's just kind of curious about that. So she asks Tarquin, I'd like to see that building. And he, well, why would you want to see that? And his reaction tells her, bingo,
this is it.
That's where it is. And so they come up with this plan at night that, her and Amren will go swim and try to figure this out and see if they can collect the book. And oh my goodness, what an adventure this is.
They get it, but like almost die. It's like the way I picture this little shack, and then they go down and it's farther and all these levels, and then all of a sudden they like get it. And then it's just like all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, and the book is speaking to her. But it can only be opened by the summer court, right? But she's realizing that she has these powers of the summer court. And so she's doing things that she knew that the book would respond to. And they're just like, liar, you're a liar. But the book almost respects her for it because they can sense that she can. And so they do get the book. They almost die. And then again, it's like, Rhys, where were you?
All the guards are coming to them now, and it's just like this whole thing. But they make it out.
They do. They winnow out. They get back to the night court, and Rhys realizes that he didn't wipe any minds. He just
did it like battle brute style.
Yeah, and so because of that, they realize what happened, and they are sent these blood rubies, which is a sign of like next
You're
time
dead
we see you, you die.
Which is hilarious because Feyre's like, oh my god, I like this guy. Like, I think he was nice, and he liked Rhysand. And Amren's like, oh my god, this is gorgeous. I love it. And like puts it on her nightstand.
Yes,
like,
she loves it.
She's like proud of it.
Love these rubies. But then you also get a sense that, was it Varian?
Yeah.
Him and Amren have a thing. Like, there's a relationship there. Varian really digs Amren and vice versa. And so she's not bothered by these blood
Amren's
rubies.
not scared of anything, honestly.
No, she's not. So. And she's not bothered by the blood rubies. She feels like it's more of like a tradition. They have to do that because they stole from them. She's not worried about it at all. So they get this book, and they try to read it.
Yep. And it's in like this old language, but good news is they also have old Amren.
And she's the only one who can decode it, but it is an old language that she even has kind of forgotten. So now her job is to decode it and figure out what the heck it means and what to do with it. And from there, I'm kind of blanking. I think at some point they need to go back to the human realm because they're starting to feel
So they do. They go to the human realm, and this is when they meet with her sisters. And they tell her sisters, like, hey, this is what's about to happen. Hybern's going to infiltrate. It could affect you guys. He wants to take down the wall, all this stuff. And, of course, Elaine's just like, I like flowers. They're pretty.
I'll help you. But also,
she's also engaged to, like, the worst person ever who hates Faye. So, like, Elaine's like, put my grace in, like...
Yeah, but they're also thinking that Feyre was dead.
Yeah.
She comes back and she's got elvish ears, and they're a little shocked that she has changed.
Because last time they saw her, she was taking off to go under the mountain.
And so now she's bringing all these Fae into their homes, and of course Nesta...
Where's Nesta? Is like...
Lord Nesta. She is... I don't even know. She's just loyal, but she's just still so anti-Fae, even though her sister is one now. And she's just kind of like, why are you bringing this here?
Yep.
Leave us be.
Leave us alone.
But they're trying to impress upon them that, things are coming.
And they need a place to meet with the human queens because there's like, I don't know, 6 of them. I can't keep track, honestly, about the human queens. So they're like, hey, y'all have this really nice palace now or whatever estate. Mm-hmm. Can we use this to hold our meetings because we need to talk to them? They have the other half of the book. We need to make this alliance with them.
Yeah.
And they do agree.
Yeah.
They do agree.
And so now Rhys sends these letters to the human queens, asking them, please, will you consider meeting with us? And it's a while before they get a response, but they do get a response. And, they meet, and these queens are very icy.
Yeah.
Not friendly at all. Mor is there. I think they're all there.
Yeah.
Cassian, Azriel, they're all there.
They're not giving them anything. They're not agreeing to anything. It's more of a like, we'll get back to you.
Yeah, because they have the other half of the book. And Amren has figured out that they need the pieces together to unlock the spell, to
stop the cauldron,
and then effectively prevent a huge war. And the queens are kind of, like, why should we help you? This book has been in our possession for 500 years. And Feyre is trying really hard to press upon them that, like, I may be Fae now, but I was human and I still feel human. And my concern is for my human people. Yeah. Like, if this comes here, you guys are defenseless. And they're kind of like, well, what makes you think, we're defenseless? And she's like, come on now. You don't have magic. And they are very opposed to helping. But there's one queen.
She's the younger one, isn't she?
It's the younger one. She's not saying much. But wait, were there 2 meetings with the queen?
I don't know, but
oh, I'm so sorry.
At one point, the younger one is like, psst.
Yeah,
like, hey, watch out.
Yeah,
they like gives the warning, like they're not telling the truth. Yeah. Like, watch out for them. Like, I believe you guys. I want to be with you on this, essentially.
Yeah.
Which we quickly learn why. But yeah, so they have these meetings. They go back to the night court.
That's right. They did have 2 meetings because in this first meeting, they're like, you know what, we'll consider it and we'll get back to you. And they're kind of like, oh my gosh. So in the meantime, Feyre starts training with Cassian. She's like, I've got these powers. I need to learn how to use the powers, but I also need to learn how to fight because she will be in situations where she needs to defend herself. So she goes through all of this training. And then where are they on their way to? They're on their way somewhere. Rhys is flying her.
So he needs to go somewhere. And I honestly don't even remember what he was like going to do. They do visit the Court of Nightmares at one point, but like they get there, like Feyre, they all go together.
Yeah, and that's a whole thing.
But do they go to the Court of Nightmares before this part?
I think so.
Yeah, they have to go to the Court of Nightmares, which, by the way, is like led by Mor's terrible father, Kier.
Kier. And they have to put a show in front of them. So basically, Rhys
is the terrible, terrible person everyone thinks he is.
And then now Feyre has to play the part of his whore, for lack of a better term. And interestingly enough, during her performance,
she's loving it.
She has decided this is a fantastic game that they're playing.
She likes it.
She really likes it. And then I think she starts to feel like, she feels, a lot of things are happening. She's starting to feel something for him. And then once she recognizes that she's feeling something for him, she has immense guilt because it's only been about a couple of months.
Yeah, since she left
Tamlin. And there was this, Tamlin was this huge love affair and it was so hot and heavy and quick. And she did all of these incredible things. And so it's like, was that even real? And she's very confused as to where she is and feeling very guilty. And then she starts to wonder, because Rhys is so good at pretending, if this is all a game with him too. Like, is there a possibility that I'm feeling this and he would laugh at me?
Yeah. And so she doesn't want to say anything.
She doesn't. And so she keeps it to herself.
So then they go on where I can't even remember. Rhys needs to go somewhere and she's like, can I come with you? And he's like, okay. And then where do they find themselves? But everywhere. But an inn to spend the night with no rooms but one.
Oh yeah, and they're so cold.
And there's one bed.
And there's only one bed, and they have to use each other's body heat to keep warm because naturally,
obviously,
duh.
And things get a little frisky, but not crazy.
And then again, though, the next day, even though it didn't get too far, she starts to feel like, oh my God, like, is this all a game? And she's feeling pretty stupid. And so they don't talk about it and they don't say anything. And then they're on their way flying to their next destination when all of a sudden they get hit with a barrage of arrows with ash in them, which is deadly to Fae. and Reese takes
all of them.
Yeah, every single one. And they crash, and she's trying to find him, and she's got this sense that she always has this connection with him because of that deal that they made.
That tattoo in the
eye. But there's also something further that pulls them together. And so she finds him, or she finds that he's been taken.
Yep.
And by the Hybern army or whatever, and they lead him into this cave, and they've got him shackled with these chains that I guess are, what are they, Feybane? I forget.
Oh, the Feybane hasn't come in quite yet. They're iron maybe or something.
There's some sort of chains that are preventing him from trying to heal himself.
Yeah.
And
maybe they do have Feybane on. I can't remember.
Either way, he's in a bad spot and he's going to die. And so she musters all the power that she has and kills these Hybern soldiers and is trying to get him out, but is realizing he's not healing. There's nothing I could do. I'm taking these arrows out and he's still dying. And so she comes up with this great idea. She's like, I need answers. I need to know how
to tell the truth.
Who can tell me? And in comes Kira's favorite character. Oh my
God. The cereal.
So she traps him again.
Iconic. This is probably his best scene yet.
Yes. So you want to tell him?
So
it's your favorite character?
She traps him and she was like, he's dying. I need to know how to save him. And he's like, oh, you want to know how to save your mate? You just need to give him your blood and do this. And she's like, time the fuck out. What did you just say to me?
My mate?
And he's like, oh, you didn't know? And I'm like, obviously you knew she didn't know.
Yeah. So
this is like, Feyre's like, okay, first off, I know how to save him, but also like, I'm ready to kill him because the story also says like, he's known for some time now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, what? So she goes back. She heals him. She's so happy he's alive. She's so pissed. She's so pissed.
I'm sorry. I did not agree with this part. I did not agree with her here. I just would have been relieved. I would have said, I know. I don't know.
What are you supposed to do? Like, she comes over to the night court. She's fragile. She just had an explosion in the spring court. She was in love in the spring court, almost got married. You're like, oh, you're my mate? Like, what was he supposed to do?
Yeah.
What was he supposed to do?
Not that, because it never would have worked.
No.
She never would have accepted it. She would have been mad about that.
Exactly.
So she saves him.
They
winnow back to the night court.
Pissy as hell.
And she just leaves him there, like, you guys fix him, you know?
Yep.
And basically says to Moore, like, I need someplace to go. Like, I need to get the hell out of here. And they're like, oh, okay. And she's like, and he cannot know. And so Moore takes her to like this like little cottage.
Yeah, like a family cottage that only family can enter. Like, you know, it's warded, all this stuff. And
Moore is just like, okay, I'm sorry you found out this way.
Yeah.
But, you know, he had his reasons, and she's just trying to talk her down. And she's like, ah. And so Feyre stays there for what, like,
a long time, it feels like. I don't know. Too long.
Yeah, very long time. And she's just sitting there. And then also, she takes it upon herself to just paint the whole cottage.
Oh, let me just
I thought was a little
paint this whole cottage, whatever the hell I want, that's been in your family for years.
I thought that was really brave of her.
A lot of people, I've like seen people react to that scene, and I think a lot of people hate that part.
I didn't like it. I
Give her an easel and a canvas.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, she finds all this paint and decides, I'm going to paint the walls and the furniture.
Oh, let me put everyone's eyeballs up here. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. I thought it was rude.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, it's wonderful that you were allowed into this space, but then you changed
Read a book.
You changed
You can read
everyone.
now.
Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't like that. I didn't like her reaction.
No.
I didn't like that she was mad. I would have understood if she was like, I'm really confused. I need to go away for a little bit.
I needed some time to think.
Yeah, but to be mad at him for it. And so eventually he does find her.
Figures it out.
And she lets him in. And
this is finally where she gets some sense, though.
Yeah. Oh, my God. It was like the best scene of the whole book, I think. Maybe. And he comes in and he just explains to her, like, basically what we were talking about. Like, I couldn't tell you right then. Like, you were going to get married and that's what you wanted to do. And she's realizing, oh, my God, this whole time it's always been about choice with him. Even when they made the deal. It's always been a choice.
And she's actually sitting and listening.
Yeah.
Like, she actually sits, listens to him, his whole thing. And then she's like, okay, tell me more about what this even means.
Yeah. And he explains it to her, and then she says something about like, oh, you must be hungry, I can make you food. And he's just like, you're gonna make me food? And she goes, yeah. And he goes, well, if the female offers food to the male, it's an acceptance of the mating bond.
And I don't know what, like, she asked him, like, do you love me or something? There's like a prompt, and he like responds the correct way, and then she pushes the food over the soup and is like, then eat.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, it's something.
But because I think at that point in my mind, I was just so happy that this was finally happening, because I feel like we all knew in the first book, the moment she met him.
Oh, yeah.
With the, oh, there you are.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is where she's supposed to be. She's supposed to be in the stars and the night court and all that stuff. So once they accept this, how would you put it?
They don't leave the house?
No, for quite a while.
A few days, a day.
They consummate their mating bond, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
There's a lot of paint still involved.
That's right. She still had paint all over her, and then they take a bath. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot going on.
They finally drag themselves out of there, though. Thank goodness.
But then he talks about how in the beginning the mating bonding is so strong, but that's all that they're going to want to do. They're basically like feral animals. Yeah. At this point.
And he's gonna have a hard time with like males around her, even if it's like Cassian and Azriel.
And he kind of apologizes for it up front, which I think is really cool, because you do get the sense that there are certain things that she's like, I don't like that, the way they treat women. And he's like, I know it's kind of barbaric, but we can't help it. And we get territorial about it. But it's just something I've got to work through, and it's going to be harder in the beginning. And so she understands that. But she does ask him things like, so what does that mean? Like, we get married? And he's just like, all of that's a choice.
Yeah.
You don't have to. We can. You can be my wife. You could just be my mate. It's whatever. And then he does at some point, I don't know if it's now, but he does earlier tell her that there are such things as high ladies. It's just not as common. But
and basically you can do whatever the hell you want.
Exactly. And she's just like, oh my God. And it just, all these things start falling in place, that he was always the one that was right for her all along.
And Tamlin was always just restriction.
And it just gets me wondering, like, does Tamlin love her? Or does he love the idea of her? Because, I mean, it was all very fast how they fell in love. And
it was like to break a curse.
Yeah, he needed that.
He's giving delusional, like, this. I don't know. Tamlin is like, is he desperate? Is he delusional? Like, I don't know what it is.
A part of me wants to feel... It is. Part of me wants to feel bad for him, but another part of me is like, it just never feels right.
Yeah, no.
And he has to understand that as well. So anyway, so they're mated, and everybody can kind of breathe a sigh of relief because the tension between them is finally gone. But even though we have this happy reunion, shit's about to go down.
Yeah.
There's still things that need to happen.
So they still have the book. They still have the looming threat of the King of Hybern, by the way, who is literally only addressed as that.
Yeah.
And they're getting nervous because he wants to resurrect Jurian.
Yes.
Jurian. He wants to bring down the wall, and they're like, we need to act on this ASAP. And everything kind of escalates, and they have to do it quickly because there is an attack on their city.
Yeah.
And Valeris. And, oh my God, I literally just...
What?
Oh my God. There was something, I swear to God, on the screen, and I thought it was a bug. Okay, so sorry. That scared me. Woo, I have my glasses on too. Oh my God. Okay, anyway.
Is there spirits in here?
I don't know. If they are, they're dead bugs. But they have an attack on Valeris. And
that's funny.
They're caught completely off guard, and Feyre, kills the adder who comes over. Right. She defends this city, and this is she is in it to win it at this point. And so this is when they're like, oh, shit's about to get real fast. He knows about the city. Yeah. We're no longer safe. We need to speed this up a bit.
And then it's like, how did they know about this city?
Yes.
And it's all because we forgot this part. When they met with the queens, the second time because they were like, we need proof. We need proof that we can trust you.
Oh, can't trust you.
And Rhys was like, the only thing we can offer them is to let them know about Velaris and how like there are good people here and we've played this part.
Yeah.
And there was a big debate on whether or not they do it, but it was like the fate of the world kind of rests upon this. And so they show them that, and the queens seem unimpressed.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? We're not going to help you anyway. And again, that young queen, she kind of like motioned like with her eyes or something. She did something where Rhys was like, okay, let them leave.
Yeah.
Because when she left, they realized that she had left the book on the chair for them.
So now they have both pieces.
And then there was a note basically like,
yes,
the letters that you wrote to us about how much you love Feyre,
like really touched me,
and I want to help you. Yeah. But be careful. Be
careful with the other ones. So now that they have the pieces, but there's the attack on Velaris, that's when they piece together like clearly it was the queens, how they figured it out. So they're like, we got to get over there. We've got to get the cauldron. And so they come up with this mission, and Feyre has to do it to get in. She's got to put the book pieces together. She's got to touch all the freaking things, say something. Who knows?
Yeah, and it's something about how she was made.
Yep.
She's not born Faith, but she was made, and so is Amryn. Like somehow they were both made, so they have this connection to the cauldron and the powers that lie within it. Mm-hmm. So only they could do this. And so they get there thinking there probably is some sort of trap for them. Yep. But if she can do it quickly enough,
they'll get out.
That's the plan. And when they get there and she goes to do this, she hesitates.
And like Amryn gives her like very clear directions, and I feel like she doesn't follow them to a T.
No.
And then they notice like it's like blood too. Like she does it and then like blood starts to come out of her nose and stuff. But like that hesitation, like it's not a full connection. And she's taking too long, and there's guards coming, and they're like, we need to get out now.
Yeah, we're
and
running out of time.
Just a little bit longer. And then like, okay, they realize like Feyre, if she was going to do it the right way, would have like offed herself, and they ran out of time. So they've got to leave. But it was a trap.
And then the King of Hybern shows up.
With Jurian,
who, by the way, was the dude that was only an eye.
The eyeball in the ring.
In the last book. And, I mean, they're right where they wanted them.
Yep.
Like, I've got you here. This is perfect because I need you to help me with this cauldron. And
he's got a lot of other people with him.
Yeah, he does. Tamlin is there.
Tamlin shows up.
With Lucien.
Lucien's there.
Now, Feyre does mention, upon seeing Lucien, he looks kind of tortured.
Yep.
Like, he is not happy that he is there. But what they discover is that Tamlin made a deal.
He said he would help the King of Hybern give him access to his court if he could help him get Feyre back. This is where he's delusional.
Yeah.
And desperate.
And Feyre's like, I told you I left on my own. And
the letter.
Yeah. And he's still like, no, like, Rhys has done something to you. You're under a spell. We're going to figure this out. And she's just like, oh my God. But then it gets worse.
He sold him out. And who else does the King of Hybern have? But Elaine and Nesta.
Yeah.
Who, in this whole package, get sold out. Then, all of a sudden, the frickin' queens are there.
And like, they want to see. I think they were jealous from the get-go that Feyre was made.
Yes.
And they're like, we want to be made too. We want to live forever. And especially the younger ones, like, I want to be young forever.
Yes.
And so the King of Hybern is like, well, why don't we test it out first and make sure it works?
And mind you, at this point, like, Cassian's barely alive.
That's right.
Yeah. Azriel's not doing too hot himself, but Cassian's, like, on the ground, like, actively dying. They're all, like, in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, like, they tore apart Cassian's wings.
He is really suffering the most.
Yeah, he is. And everybody's begging, please stop, we'll do anything. King of Hybern really could care less. And they take Elaine first and throw poor, sweet, flower-loving Elaine into the cauldron. And Nesta is losing her mind.
Loses her shit.
Because she's very protective of Elaine. Of course, Feyre is losing her mind, and they throw her in there. And then, of course, there's this fear that she's going to die. She's not going to make it. But lo and behold, she comes out, and she's Faye. and most inopportune time.
I like hate him for this.
This is so cringe. And I love Lucien, and I think he's always been very loyal to Feyre, but he follows the rules with Tamlin. But anyway, he sees Elaine, who is
everyone's screaming, Cassian's dying.
The world is on fire at this point, and he just says, "You're my mate.
You're my mate." And it's like, Lucien,
now,
shut up.
Now, my dude.
Like later.
Like, this girl just went through absolute torture. Who knows what they did to her before this point? She's not open to hearing.
This is not about you right now.
Exactly. So he's losing his mind because this is my mate. And the King of Hybern is like, oh, one more thing to hold over you.
Wow, look at that.
And they're like, okay, let's throw the next one in.
God.
And like, no one can do anything. So then they throw Nesta in, but she puts up one hell of a fight.
And she's down there for a bit.
Yeah, but she does a vulgar gesture, they said, to the king. It was kind of like she's going to kill him one day. Like that.
And the interesting thing is when she's going in and she's suffering and she's fighting, Cassian in his state is like crawling to her.
He's trying to get to her. And she comes out like a freaking firecracker. Yeah, like we knew she would.
And she basically got down there and was like, F you, Cauldron. I'm taking something you have because you're taking all this away from me. So she comes out and like Nesta has taken something from the Cauldron, which we have no idea what it is. But she pops out. Cassian's freaking out. All the queens are like, oh my God, me next. Like, it's just like this crazy scene. People are dying. These two are pissed. And the queens are like, oh my God, I want to go in. Like, you're getting baptized or something.
Part of me hopes, and a part of me doesn't hope, that they turn this into some sort of series, because I'd love to see how they would imagine this scene, because it is like absolute utter chaos. But then here's Lucien like, oh, my mate, my love.
The queens are like shoving, like, no, me first.
Feyre's crying, screaming, Cassian's dying.
Nesta and Elaine are just probably like soaking wet. Like,
yeah, there's just a lot of crazy things happening at this point. And all the while, Feyre is kind of like pleading to Tamlin, please make this stop. Please make this stop.
Like, what the hell did you do?
And she realizes that he's not going to make it stop. No. Lucien is yelling like, okay, we've gone too far here. And
as if that made it, like, that's when you finally realized
and it's too late because her sisters have been turned. But Cassian is pretty much going to die. And Feyre is thinking, he's going to, like, there's nothing left for me to do. I have to do something.
They have to do something to save it.
And so the King of Hybern has like this shield around them. And because Feyre has all these special powers now, she figures out a way to take those shields down, which means that if they know about it, they can winnow out.
Yeah.
And so she secretly gets them down, and she's like, this is my moment to do what I need to do. And she makes this decision that I'm just going to play a part too. And she kind of tries to mind read to Rhys, but at this point, because of the powers and everything and the shields, it's not that clear. But I think she does get a message into him.
And I think they know each other. They're connected so well. He picks up on her plan.
Yeah, and she's just like, go with me here. Yeah. And so she just starts screaming all of a sudden in a different way, where they're all like, what's happening with her? And then she's like, Tamlin?
Yeah, like all of a sudden.
Yeah, like, where am I? Like, how did you get this spell off, you know? And she plays the part that all along, what Tamlin thought was true, that Rhys had her under some sort of spell, and please God help me, and please get this, ink off me. Get the ink off me. Destroy the mating bond. He did the
letter. He's been in my head. Destroy the mating bond.
Destroy it. I don't want it. I don't want to be his.
And Rhys is like obviously putting up his fight because he's playing the part now too. And she's like, destroy it. And he's like, no, like break the bond. And
the King of Hybern does, and her tattoo disappears, and Rhys is screaming and crying. And I'm like, a part of me was really, this made me sad. I know they were playing, but it was just like, after all that they've been through to get to that point together, and then to even pretend like,
but it was successful.
The tattoo goes away. The bond is still there.
Yes.
But
she like glamours the tattoo, like she does something, so it's like actually still there.
And then that's when Tamlin is like, okay, King, you got what you wanted.
I got what I wanted.
Like, let me take her now. And I think did she message to him that like the shields are down, and so that's when Rhysand is like,
they figure it out.
we gotta go, and because she did that, they're able to get the hell out of
during
there.
the like fake catastrophe they put up, she managed to do that. And then honestly, I need to find it because
the last words. I've got it right here.
I was gonna say there are so many lines that are my favorite.
I feel pretty guilty about reading the last line of a book, but do you want to read it?
Okay, I'll do a little bit before.
Okay.
So, okay, I want to go back farther. Okay. Tamlin scanned my face and finally nodded. We'll start over, do things differently. When you're gone, I realized I've been wrong. Feyre was so wrong, blah, blah, blah. Like, she's like, too late.
Yeah, whatever.
And she's like, it doesn't matter. I'm home now. And he's like, forever and forever. And it's like this terrible thing. And Lucian's just looking at her like,
he doesn't buy it.
No.
He's like, there's no way.
So go down a little bit. And it says, I gave Lucian a sweet, sleepy smile. So our game began. We hit the sweeping marble stairs to the front doors of the manor.
And so Tamlin unwittingly led the High Lady of the Night Court into the heart of his territory.
So many iconic lines she has, but that one itself is just like the perfect ending to the book. It's so badass. Yeah. Like, chef's kiss. Could not have been better.
Yeah. And nobody knows that she's the High Lady.
None of the inner circle know. It's her and Rhys, and you find out later because obviously they go back to the Night Court and everyone's like, Rhys, why would you let her go? Like, what the hell was that? And he's like, little do you know, we went to like, I don't know, the courthouse, our equivalent of the courthouse.
Or something, yeah.
And they did their like wedding. They became husband and wife, and she was sworn in as the High Lady of the Night Court.
And so it's like, basically, we've got a spy now. Yeah. And she'll come back when she needs to.
Yep. And he trusts her. He trusts her that she's capable of holding her own.
I mean, he hates it.
Yeah.
But he trusts her, and which is the complete opposite of anything that Tamlin would have done for her.
Yeah.
Or accepted from her.
Iconic. Honestly, to me, this is the best book of the series. And like, it's not done, but there's just so much to it. And like, it's just, it leaves you on a note. You want to go to the next one, which she always does.
Yeah.
But I feel like everyone loves this because this is when you get Rhysand and who he is. You get he and Feyre together. You learn so much. You get the inner circle. You grow to love these characters in this book. And I feel like that's why I love this so much, is because this is when you make that connection with them.
You care about them.
Yeah. And obviously like the other books are involved and you love them still and they go through things. But like this one is where it's like you are also going through these moments with them and you fall in love with them too.
I remember when I first read it over the summer, I kept texting you, when is this going to happen?
I know.
When are they going to get together? She was just like, keep reading. I'm like, oh my God, it's taking so many pages before they finally figure it out. But so I would say I've only read the first 3 now, but this is definitely my favorite just because I get what I wanted.
Yeah.
I just don't like how it ended because you're like, you just got what you wanted and now we have to separate.
Yeah. You'll like Silver Flames, I feel like.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean,
I know we're not talking about the third book,
yeah.
but I just finished the third book and it had me in such a, I don't even know,
the third book is one of those fantasy books where it's like,
it was a roller coaster.
Wow, I'm like so far in and like I feel like not a lot's happened. And then you hit those last 100 pages, you're like, what?
But it's the same thing with the first book. And it's the same thing with this book because it's not till the very end where they get to, Hybern. And the first book is the end of the book is when we do like
Under the Mountain,
trials.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have all book, and then the very end is like all the meat almost and the crazy stuff, and you kind of don't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, this is the character. Like, this is where you fall in love with the characters for me. And like the next book, you learn a lot more about the courts and things like that. But the inner circle, this is where the inner circle becomes like family.
Yeah. And I don't think I had any other cast members. Was Anthe in the first book? I don't think so.
No, she would have been new. Cassian, Asriel, Moore, they're all new. But honestly, those ones I had the hardest time with. Like, I never came to a happy conclusion.
I thought Cate Blanchett would be a great Anthe.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think maybe it's because of all the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
Because I see her as like, she looks, I don't even really think we talked about her so much, but she comes off as like this ethereal type princess, but she is so evil.
God. And then Cassian's just like this brute, like huge brute of a warrior.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He's got longer
like
hair. Yeah. And of course everyone like wants to go to Jason
Momoa?
Yeah. Just because of his size and his hair.
Okay.
But like I feel like you need that, but like almost just a touch smaller.
Yeah. I don't see that.
Yeah. But I think it is because the hair, the just muscular. But I don't know why I picture Cassian like big, but like just give me like a little bit smaller. And then Azrael, it just like has to be mysterious. I picture like the cheekbones, the facial structure, like he can be in the corner of a room and you wouldn't know, but also he is muscular, not to the extent of Cassian, but good looking, of course.
Oh, of course.
They're all good looking.
Of course.
But yeah, I didn't really come to great conclusions about any of them.
I think because you're just so focused on the story of Feyre and Rhysand.
Yeah.
And I just really love how she comes into her own. She's figuring out her powers, but she's also just listening to herself, listening to her wants, and
she's getting stronger and stronger, both like emotionally, physically, with her powers, everything. You see that growth that she goes through. And I think in the third book too, from like the role of being the High Lady and figuring out the politics. Like,
yeah, but I just like that she has a role in the Night Court and she has choices, and I think he mentions to her a lot, like, we're partners. We're not, it's not,
we're equals.
We're equals. And which is kind of amazing considering she wasn't always Fae. And here he's already accepting, like, yeah, of course. Like, think of all the things that you've done for us to this point. Like, we're on the same footing.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's like kind of like feminine power.
It is.
Like that.
He had a strong mom. You get that like impression. Yeah. She wasn't just going to listen and things like that.
Speaking of moms, when I read the first book and we talked about it, I said that I was curious about Feyre's mom and how if there was something she foresaw or knew about her to tell her baby to be the one to look after everybody. And you told me that there were theories about that, but then you never told me what the theories were.
Well, I didn't want to like spoil that.
Oh.
The theories
Is it coming soon?
Like no. The theories are that her mom was either like part Fae or descended from Fae.
Where do people get that?
Because the fact that she like, they think she foresees Feyre's future.
Oh.
And like what's going to happen. And that her mom understands the like Corinthian or however you say that and all that stuff. But she can't be full because you would physically see it.
Okay. This deals with the next book, but then maybe that makes sense with what happens to Elaine. That why she would have certain gifts if her mom had. But do they ever talk about that? No, it's just people having theories.
People just have theories.
Okay.
Sorry to break it to you.
Damn it. I was kind of hoping that like something was coming. Like they found something.
No.
And her mom comes back up.
No.
Okay.
But I also think like you think about how her dad handles, like obviously we'll talk about the third book.
Oh, that's right. He handles all sorts of like trading objects and jewels, and I'm sure he's come across things. And okay.
But we'll elaborate more.
We'll get there. Hopefully this wasn't as all over the place as it kind of feels like it was in my head.
I think it felt great.
I'm glad it felt great for you.
Other than the imaginary book I pictured.
You need to like isolate that video and just put it up there.
I know. I really thought there was. But what's next after this? This goes back to oh my god. The Manor House.
Oh, that's right.
Think of that.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break and then do one of our typical mystery books of the Manor House, and then we'll go back to book 3. After that, I don't know. Oh no, after that, I think we both picked up a book by Alice Feeney.
Oh yes, we did.
Good Bad Girl.
Good Bad Girl.
Yeah, something like that. And then from there, I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be the 4th book, I guess. But we'll figure it out. We'll get there.
Yeah.
All in good time.
Well, hopefully that made sense.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking around and happy reading.